The brainstem is the middleman between the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the spinal cord. Although most of the cranial nerve nuclei are located within the brainstem, it is largely made up of axons passing through on their way to another region of the nervous system. Such groups of axons, or nerve fibers, travelling to the same place within the CNS are called tracts, and tend to make landmarks we can use to identify different regions of the brainstem when they are isolated in cross-section. And over here we're looking at the midbrain. It's the most superior, or the most rostral part of the brainstem, and is continuous with the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the epithalamus, and the subthalamus, which are collectively called the diencephalon. And it's involved in several processes relating to vision, hearing, and motor control, as well as alertness, arousal, and temperature regulation. Let's take a closer look at some of the unique landmarks used to identify parts of the midbrain. Let's start with these structures, which are the most obvious feature of the midbrain. And these are the cerebral peduncles, sometimes called the crus cerebri. The cerebral peduncles are aligned nearly perpendicular to each other and create a small space called the interpeduncular fossa. The cerebral peduncles are large collections of white matter fiber bundles, including the corticospinal, the corticobulbar, and the corticopontine pathways. And we'll learn more about some of these pathways a little bit later on in the tutorial. A thin, dark line of cell bodies runs across the cerebral peduncles, and this is the substantia nigra, which translates literally into black stuff. The dark colour is a result of neuromelanin contained within its cell bodies, and the neurons of the substantia nigra release dopamine into the striatum to influence motor control. The cerebral peduncles and substantia nigra are closer to the ventral part of the midbrain, and if we move towards the dorsal part of the midbrain, we can see a small canal running through it. And this is the cerebral aqueduct. The cerebral aqueduct receives cerebrospinal fluid from the third ventricle, and this fluid then passes inferiorly to the fourth ventricle. A small region of grey matter surrounds the cerebral aqueduct. This region is referred to as the periaqueductal grey, and it contains neurons that project to the raphe nuclei in the reticular system to modulate pain. Moving in an inferior or caudal direction, the next cross-section that we're going to be looking at is taken at the level of the pons. And it can be identified by this large bulge on its ventral or anterior surface called the basal pons and its large connections to the cerebellum. It also houses several of the cranial nerve nuclei. Like the midbrain, the pons also contains fibers of the ascending and descending white matter tracts, but we'll discuss this in more detail in just a few moments. So next up is the smallest part of the brainstem, and that is the medulla, also known as the medulla oblongata or the myelencephalon, and it's the most inferior or caudal portion of the brainstem and is continuous with the spinal cord. Several small bulges and a uniquely shaped nucleus provide landmarks to identify it, and despite being the smallest part of the brainstem, the medulla is divided into two segments. So this over here is the rostral medulla, and rostral means beak or nose in Latin. And this part is called the rostral medulla because it is closer to the nasal region of the skull. Besides a few bulges on its ventral surface, which are known as the pyramids of the medulla, the best structure to use in identifying the medulla is the olivary nucleus. And the olivary nucleus is a uniquely shaped nucleus that appears convoluted in cross-sections, and neurons in the olivary nucleus coordinate signals between the cerebellum and the spinal cord. The most inferior part of the medulla is called the caudal medulla. And caudal means tail in Latin, and so therefore the caudal medulla gets its name because it is closer to the tailbone or coccyx than the rostral medulla.
If you found this quick anatomy or physiology video helpful, you'll enjoy our video tutorials even more. Click on the button and you'll see what I mean. We have hundreds of videos available to our premium members, not to mention all the fun quizzes, complete articles, and atlas sections to solidify your knowledge. Click on the button in the middle to watch the full-length video and master anatomy and physiology.